It's been 5 years, and we finally got ourselves a sequel. So, the big question that everyone's asking, does Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse hold up to the first movie? The answer, surprisingly, is yes. And I might even go so far as to say that it's better than the first one. Watching the first couple teaser trailers and awaiting its release, I was pretty skeptical. Over the last decade, most franchises have been stuffed down a smelly sewer pipe, never to see the light of day again. So, as you can imagine, I felt very little hope that one of the few remaining series that I enjoy would be spared from being chopped to death at the butchering table and crawl into theaters like a chicken with its head cut off. But I am proud to announce that this is not one of those franchises. Well, not yet anyway. And while it's not without its faults, overall, Across the Spider-Verse is a very thoughtful, engaging film that was well worth the wait. Across the Spider-Verse picks up the threads of Miles Morales' story 1 year after Into the Spider-Verse left off. It follows Brooklyn's full-time, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man as he navigates his life, the multiverse, and the mysterious villain Spot, who turns out being much more of a threat than anyone would have guessed. Miles and Gwen are thrown into the chaos of fighting Why is this so hard to say? Miles and Gwen are thrown into the chaos of fighting multi-dimensional battles alongside Spider-Man from every world imaginable. But in the end, Miles must let a loved one die or find himself at war with every Spider-Man ever. First things first, let's talk about the good parts. At the moment of recording, Across the Spider-Verse is sitting at a whopping 8.6 on IMDb. So out of the millions and millions of movies that have ever been made, this movie is rated number 25. 25. For reference, that's 4 slots above Star Wars A New Hope, 1 above Interstellar, and 2 below Saving Private Ryan. It has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 96% audience score. While the ratings are more likely than not to take a small dip in the following weeks, that's still an impressive rating. If people don't like things these days, they'll let you know. So based off of only this, you could assume that it's a pretty decent movie. As with the first installment, the creators at Sony knocked it out of the park in the animation department. Somehow they managed to hold up the high expectations from last time, and even surpass the lofty style they've already achieved. While many films would be content to leave it at the outstanding comic book style that they engineered in the first movie, Across the Spider-Verse takes it to the next level. The animation is smoother, it replicates the comic style even more accurately, and there's a different and distinct style for every reality that exists, 6 of which are featured prominently within the film. Also, the creators made space for some live-action footage and characters. I don't want to spoil too much, but if nothing else, go see the movie for the Lego J. Jonah Jameson. Trust me, this one is worth the price of admission.
Shut up. Get out of here. Got it, boss.
This movie is an absolute stunner, crossing the threshold for general awesomeness. To put it simply, if I could watch this at half speed, I would not complain. It's that beautiful. It goes places you never could with live action, and it's well worth the 2.5-hour ride. In short, you're gonna want to see this on the biggest screen possible. The story, for the most part, is pretty solid. There are some genuine stakes, and Miles is confronted many times with 2 equally awful choices. It's really interesting to sit there and wonder, what would I do if I was in that perfect pair of Air Jordan shoes? But that cliffhanger, whew, kinda pulled an Infinity War on us. Everyone in my theater literally yelled, "What? That's the end?" So yeah, it's gonna be one long year, but I cannot wait to see how this series wraps itself up.
So are you like a cow or a Dalmatian?
I am the Spot.
Then there's the film's villain, Spot, a character who even in the trailer looked like one of those no-problem thugs that is, well, no problem. So dumb. But the truth is much darker. As a result of Miles' actions in the previous movie, Spot becomes the product of a terrible accident, a body made of walking portals. In short, he's kind of a joke. In return for Miles ruining his life, Spot wants nothing more than to get even with him. But Spot can't really do that if he's only a villain of the week, now can he? In one of the opening scenes, Miles detains him with hardly a fight while munching on a recently microwaved Hot Pocket, so that gives you an idea of how little threat the guy is. But through the course of the movie, he becomes more and more of a looming threat. He will stop at nothing to make Miles pay for his actions. What I expected to be some thrown together excuse of a villain ended up becoming one of the most menacing antagonists I've seen in quite a while. Also, the way this film explores and explains the multiverse is one of the best versions I've seen so far. I know at times multiple realities can seem like kind of a creative crutch, so characters don't ever have to pay for the consequences of their actions. But here, it's treated much differently. When Miles breaks the multiverse canon, saving a character that wasn't supposed to be saved, the Spider-Men in league with him think he's absolutely crazy. Why? That guy was supposed to die. It was canon. If too many of these non-canon events occur, it can destroy an entire world. So it all comes down to the horrible choice that's plagued our heroes since the very first Spider-Man film. Save a lot of innocent bystanders, or the person that you love most. Except this time, the stakes are higher. Much, much higher. But as with any film, there were some parts that were less than perfect. I know this one's been pointed out before, but the pregnant Spider-Woman going on the life-threatening missions, doing stunts on a motorcycle and chasing bad guys did not fly with me. Can't say I have much experience with that kind of thing, but I wouldn't imagine that that would be the healthiest thing for the baby or the mom. Also, it didn't really add anything to the story, so there's pretty much no reason whatsoever for its existence. There were also a couple comments thrown around about how the original Peter Parker seemed kind of clumsy in this film, just like a babysitting dad the whole time. While I can see why some people would find that annoying, it wasn't that terrible to me, because you get to see that in the end, there is a reality in which it worked out for Peter and MJ. There are very few instances, if any, of Spider-Man and his love interest ever making it. As Gwen points out, every time Spider-Man falls in love with someone, disaster follows. But Peter proves that this isn't always the case, and maybe there's still some hope for Miles. At times, the film can seem a little sluggish or too fast. I think this mainly comes down to the creators taking one overarching story and chopping it in half. While I'm sure there are plenty of ideas to go around, there's a chance that you might feel the Hobbit screen time dilemma, where there's a little bit less story per minute than other movies. We do spend quite a bit of time with the supporting characters in this movie, but I think it's more of a setup for the next installment. But these are just minor nitpicks, and you'd have to harness your inner J. Jonah Jameson to not enjoy this movie. In the end, the pros far outweigh the cons in Across the Spider-Verse. According to my Spidey sense, it'll probably go down as one of the greatest superhero films of all time. It's a good movie, and it will definitely have its time in the spotlight. It really goes to show that people aren't suffering from superhero fatigue. They're suffering from stupid movies. Well, at least one studio has figured that out. So yeah, get out and catch Across the Spider-Verse while it's still on the big screen. You will not regret it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you around.